You're listening to a Rock Candy podcast.
Why can't they pod just like everybody else? What kind of question is that? Magpod for life. Magpod for life. Magpod for life. Magpod for life. Magpod for life.
Coming to you from Magnified Studios, Magnified Pod presents Pods from the Penalty Box, a nostalgic sampling of skate punk albums from the 90s Christian alternative scene. Join us in the pit. I'm Andrew.
I'm John.
And this is our podcast. And I am refreshed because I am consuming a beverage, John, that you brought up.
Yeah.
Was it last week or was it 2 weeks ago?
I think it was last week.
Was it last
Who knows?
week?
What is time? But yeah.
What is time? No matter. So you talked about the jalapeno limeade from Trader Joe's. And I was like, oh shit. I need to go and snag some of that. So I promptly went out to my local Trader Joe's and picked up a couple bottles of the jalapeno limeade.
Well done.
I texted you like the moment I saw it on the end cap. I was like, oh shit. I was so ready. So I snagged a couple of those, and then I went because Minnesota is ridiculous. We don't sell liquor in grocery stores. It has to be an adjacent establishment, like a separate building, because
Man, you can buy booze on Sundays there now. That was not the life
I know.
growing up. You have to drive to Wisconsin for that shit.
I know. Yeah. This was like what, less than 5 years ago?
Yeah.
That you couldn't buy alcohol on Sundays. But anyway, so any grocery store that you see in Minnesota, invariably there's going to be a liquor store right next door to it.
Right.
But Trader Joe's, they have their own private label stuff. And so they have like it's so pathetic because it's literally in the same building.
You walk like 2 feet.
You have to like walk down the hall to a separate room that has all the alcohol. But I went in there and I got I was like, I'll get some tequila because I talked about tequila. Throwing in that because it's just like a makeshift spicy marg. And then I was like, wait a second, is that some mezcal right there?
Yeah,
it certainly was. So I picked up
the results, and
it's great.
That's
if
awesome.
you like that smoky mezcal and a little bit of heat, it's not spicy. For us spice daddies, we don't we like a little bit of heat. We're not overwhelmed by but it definitely has in the back of your throat just a little bit. You could tell there's some heat to it, but it's not, there's no tongue burning, there's none of that. But I dropped in a little Cointreau in there to get a little bit of more orange citrusy flavors. But it's good. I've been making these for the past few days.
Hell yeah. That sounds classier.
As it's gotten warmer and sitting outside, it's outstanding.
That sounds classier than versions of, one-step cocktails I've attempted with that. I'm also feeling refreshed. I love how our podcast is half sort of like a consumer product endorsements.
That nobody's paying us for.
Indeed. But I've got an orange vanilla polar seltzer here, which somebody, I believe it was a Patreon punk had recommended, and it's delicious. And I think you could pour some vodka in there maybe and have a good time. But I'm just straight up water tonight. So
I am going to look and see if I can find who mentioned it. You was it?
I thought it was Sawyer and then maybe Caleb, but I don't think either of them did. So anyway, if you recommended the orange vanilla, you holler at us.
We're blowing it. But we still got to get that that parched madness.
Yeah, man, it'll happen.
It'll go, but it's gonna go. Do you know what else was refreshing in a different way?
What's that?
Yesterday, I got to hang out with friends of the pod, Brian Nelson Phelan and Mark Atkinson.
Nice.
And I hugged Mark for the first time in over a year last night.
Did you take in his musk?
I did. He's and it was an aggressive hug on my part. He's like, should we do this? And I was just like, I wasted no time. I was just like, just leaned into it. And I was just like, oh gosh, just hugging, the novelty of hugging somebody. Like it just seems like the most normal thing in the world.
Right. Yeah. When I see you, I'm going to scorpion style go, come here and pull you in. The reason I'm not drinking booze tonight is because we just came from our friend's house and I hugged them and we had a couple beers outside, and I saw some other friends last weekend and hugged them and had family over after that. It's just been like a week of first time hugs and hangs in a year. So,
oh man,
pretty great.
Yeah. And we, getting that CDC mask mandate adjusted. I have mixed feelings about it. Like I'm somebody who wants to follow the science and what the science says, and I just, my concern is like, the people that, this is like relating to like people who are vaccinated. That's like the qualifications. Like if you're vaccinated, it's safe. They're saying it's safe to be essentially indoors without a mask, but like this still is going to negatively impact people who haven't been vaccinated. And, of course I don't want people who aren't wearing masks and aren't vaccinated. I don't want them to get sick, but I just feel like it would have been a better course of action. I'm not in public health, so maybe this is baseless, but I would assume like if we were closer to reaching herd immunity, then that might be the time to do it. But I don't have any thing to base that on, and that's just in my mind that sounds like kind of like a reasonable goal. But
well, and especially since as recently as like this week they were saying other things like that we should still be wearing masks indoors. So my thing is like, I don't get, and I've raised this on the pod already, but I'm just like, I'm all for, whatever, we can start gatherings again, but I don't understand how we will enforce the who's vaccinated and who isn't.
Right.
I understand people's objections to like a database, even if I think that makes sense to a certain extent. But like, even the like showing your card, which I said like you could easily fake or whatever, seems like they're not going to really enforce that either. So it's all going to be like honor system, which seems like a great opportunity for COVID to flare up again. But you know what? I don't know. We can get vaccinated and we can tell others to get vaccines, and that's all we can do. So please get your second dose if you haven't yet. We'll touch on this a little later, but Andrew and I are going to a show together.
It's true.
This year. So things are getting back to normal, people. We just want to be able to gather in the pit. So come on.
Yeah, we should clarify that when you say this year, it's barely, because it's like December 18th or something like that.
Yeah, it's pretty late, but still, the point is a show in the calendar year of 2021 is encouraging to me. So
yeah. So John, this week we are going to be wrapping up Value Pac.
Yes.
With an album that I would hazard a guess that a majority of people have not listened to.
I think that's right.
And I'm going to say that's fine.
It's a curious cap to a discography.
Yes, a significant departure.
Yes,
we shall say. But we have some voicemails that people have shared their their experiences with this record, or the with Jalapeño, and other records that other Value Pac records that they haven't revisited in a long time. Mm-hmm. So we should check out some of those. So we got some Danny Stairs with his Jalapeño thoughts.
Hey, what's up, guys? Your boy Danny Stairs calling. First off, give my review of The Teens. I liked it. There were some songs that just kind of fell flat for me, but overall there were a lot of exciting things on here, a lot of fun stuff. So I'm glad I got to experience it. We'll see, if it has any longevity in my listening. But there was some cool stuff on there. So still thinking about which one of your top three I could sign off on, or even possibly maybe even diverge onto my own path. But we'll see about that as well. I'll let that percolate for a couple days maybe. But also I wanted to respond to Andrew's discussion about the last song on the album. And I really wanted to call in and roast Andrew and say, you're going to say they didn't make the top of here 30 years later, 20 years later, and you're talking about them. So, but I also love Andrew, and I don't want to roast him right now because I think, he might not have made it in music, but like John said, he's doing something else that's getting to a lot of people. And, he's helped facilitate this community. He's helped to bring these people together and just made these connections. And it's a wonderful thing that you guys do. So I don't want to make fun of Andrew on that one because I think he's done a lot, and so I'm super appreciative of it. Magpie.
Thanks, buddy. Thanks, man. That's really sweet.
Kind of threw you under the bus and then propped you up on the pedestal afterward.
That seems pretty par for the course for Danny Stairs, but that's really sweet. Right. For the most part, people don't maybe realize that I don't always listen to these voicemails ahead of time. Mm-hmm. So that was my first time fully listening to that through. So it's very sweet, Danny. And yeah, to your point, yes. Over 20 years later, we're still talking about these bands and everything. But I don't think when Ryan Sheely was talking about seeing people at the top, they were talking about...
You don't think this is the top? You don't think Magpie is the top?
Ryan, you're welcome. You finally got there,
You made it, buddy.
You finally got there. If you want to get on the pod to achieve it, either your further dreams of reaching the top, we can help you there too.
I would say most bands we've covered, we've had interaction with some members, and it's crickets for these guys. I've tried, we can't really find any of them online either. So anyway, I don't know. Value Pac folks, Ryan, if you're out there, come on the pod. Let us know what you think about the view from the top.
So not talking Ryan, but we're talking Brian.
Hey guys, this is Brian. Just wanted to give you a shout out for your coverage on Value Pac. I heard Value Pac when I was probably 15 in Southern California. That's where I grew up. And I probably haven't listened to their music until you guys brought them into Pods from the Penalty Box. So it's been kind of a fun, nostalgic return to my youth. Maybe for this album more than some of the other ones you've covered, even though they also are representative of those years of my life. But I think it's those SoCal vibes. You guys talked about the Green Day and Rancid influences there, and it definitely comes out. And just really haven't listened to that style nearly as much as maybe I should have. And so hearing it again has been really fun. Also want to give huge props for the intro for the Value Pac episodes.
Right.
I think it's been kind of hit or miss for you guys, not to criticize you on a deep level, but you kind of work with what you got.
Wow.
But the Sunday Christian intro with Magpie for Life, you've just been crushing it. So give us more of that as this season and future seasons go on. I'm loving it. And also, I don't know how you arrived at the whole daddy-daughter thing that you talked about in the last episode. But thank you for naming that. I have never really been comfortable with that. Even at weddings, it just feels like a weird tradition. Very patriarchal, obviously. But particularly in the elementary school setting or middle school setting. I can't. I don't know what else to say about it. But thanks for naming that and calling that out. Loving what you guys are doing. Magpie for life, and we'll talk to you later.
Thanks, bud.
Yeah, I mean, thanks for that. Building me up with the Value Pac intro compliment, and then tearing me down with the.
This is the opposite of Danny Stairs. He put you on a pedestal, and then he threw you under the bus.
Exactly. I don't know. I thought Ace Troubleshooter. I put some effort in there.
Soft spot in my heart for our Goonies. It's like shoes.
Yeah.
Well, Brian, we'll try harder, okay?
Yeah. God damn. Fuck, I'll just, I'll talk. I'll talk. Get Matt Langston. I'll call him up. Ooh. I'll get into the studio.
Yeah, man.
I'll get some professionally recorded shit. Because
it's not a bad idea. You could throw some bleeps and bloops down at some point.
Ooh, yeah, man. Like that for our more indie season.
Ooh, yeah.
Oh, we get maybe get Matt to do like a Joy Electric, intro or something.
Yeah, man. These wheels are turning.
All right. Okay. We got something here.
But yes, Brian, I think a particular SoCal sound to be found on Jalapeño, which I super enjoyed. I think, I kind of named that too, that like there wasn't enough of this kind of band, at least in this Christian alternative scene. Daddy daughter stuff in general, a little weird. So glad you're with us in that.
Yeah. Let's go from one Brian.
Too many Brians.
Yeah. Got too many Dannys. We got too many Jasons. Now for the first time, got too many Brians.
Hey guys, Brian from Minneapolis here. First time, long time. Thanks for the various shout outs in the regular and Patreon, the most recent regular and Patreon episodes. It was nice hearing my name without getting tossed under the bus by Andrew. Of course, now that I say that, I'm sure Andrew will find a way to park one on top of me again. Mm-hmm. Anyway, I'm really enjoying the Value Pac episodes. I listened to the Jalapeño album a lot in high school, but I didn't know until you guys started recording these that they even had other albums. As always, you guys are more generous than I would be on some of the albums you cover. I can't imagine that I would choose to listen to the self-titled album, but Jalapeño is still great. I did have one Value Pac concert memory. We have all of us have a mutual friend named John, and the two of us saw Value Pac play with Goaty Hook around 98, I think. I don't remember anything about Goaty Hook, but I remember the concert for a couple of reasons. It was played in a church in some middle of the nowhere Chicago suburb, and there was like 10 people there. Whoa. Which is, a real...
That's a bummer.
Crappy way to start a show. And then the other reason is that Value Pac played what is probably the most disinterested show you can imagine. They were grumpy and just trying to get it over with. And, I've never been in a band, and I get that playing to a show with 10 people sucks. But, it didn't make... the rest of us weren't excited. Only 10 people were there either. And so it just made it feel like, hey, you're taking your anger out on those of us who actually showed up. So anyway, keep up the good work. And John, I do want more of you scat singing Red Hot Chili Peppers. As you said at the end of the pod, you left a lot of good material on the table. Magpie for life.
Brian doesn't feel the color from Minneapolis. He's got something to say about, Value Pac venue is, I don't know. I can never follow through with the second round.
Yeah. See, here's the thing, John. I got shit on because in the Discord, people were saying that my Ketis was inferior. but I was trying to go for the rhyme and not. I was so focused on trying to hit the rhyme. You've got the intonation, you got the voice and everything. I think we just need to like somehow combine
our forces.
Combine our forces.
Make one Super Ketis.
John, we're starting a band called Super Ketis.
Done and done.
It'll be it'll be nothing like the Red Hot Chili Peppers.
No,
people will show up, be like, "Oh, I wonder if this is like a Red Hot Chili Peppers like cover band." It's like, no funk, no rapping, none of it.
No, it'll be sort of like Celtic Swiss metal.
Exactly. John will play the hurdy-gurdy. It'll be great.
Oof, I would love to play hurdy-gurdy. Let me wind that bad boy up. There seems to be a theme emerging as far as memories of Value Pac at shows, and it's not a positive one.
No,
I can't speak to this too much, and maybe other people can weigh in. But there seems to be sort of an impression going around that perhaps they came off as not super into being at the shows that they were playing at sometimes. So,
or that they felt too good for the shows that they were at.
We're going to release an album in a few years that is going to blow everybody away. That's what they were thinking. They're going to see you at the top, except when they were playing a show in 1998 to 10 people. Oh boy.
And they were not too happy about it.
That sounds so rad though, seeing 98 Air Value Pac with Goaty Hook. That's a bummer that there are only 10 people there. Brian, if you will not listen to the self-titled record, I will be very curious to hear what you think about the album we're discussing today. Let's just say Jalapeño, good album. That's all I have to say about that.
Yeah. We do have one more Brian voicemail.
Hey guys, this is Brian from Minneapolis again. I was just calling. This is sort of off the topic, but last week you guys mentioned, Andrew, you mentioned the Lord of the Rings soundtrack and talking about John listening to the Batman soundtrack. And since John is such a film scholar, I wondered if you guys had a kind of favorite music movie moment, like the favorite, your favorite use of music in a movie. You know, it doesn't have to be necessarily a musical, but like a moment where you thought the music really kind of carried a scene. So just curious about that. I know, kill this if that doesn't fit to the show this week. Magpod for life.
Great question. Great question. I thought he was going to say, do you have other favorite soundtracks? But
right,
a favorite music movie moment where the music is, I mean, like, I have other, I'm not a huge soundtrack guy. I know that you're probably more into film scores and soundtracks and that sort of thing. The one soundtrack that I can think of, that I guess it is, definitely be more of a soundtrack, not a score. The Dust Brothers soundtrack for Fight Club.
Pretty great.
I thought that the music on that was, I listened to that a lot in high school.
Same here.
I thought that was a really, because that, like, the music was like really dark and dirty, and it also had a Tom Waits song on that soundtrack as well.
Yeah. Great Tom Waits song.
Yeah. But I'm trying to think, like, I like, I guess another movie music moment that I really like is, this is a bit maybe on the nose, but I like, because this is a movie that I sort of have a soft spot for, but School of Rock, I really like the way music is used.
Yes.
In that, not just like as a, but it's like as a theme and as creation, and like even when they're not like playing songs, there's still lots of singing, and there's it's all the creative use of music. And of course, like not just the end scene where they're all playing together, but like throughout it too. With Led Zeppelin and him creating the song in the class and creating the band, that moment where he's creating the band in the class. I really love that.
The original songs in that movie are super fun.
Yeah.
It's funny because I was thinking about the album that we're reviewing this week, that some of the songs sound like fake movie rock bands, like sound like what a band opening for the like School of Rock at the
No
like
Vacancy.
Yeah, like one of those. That's kind of the vibe of like some of the songs.
Yes.
That's a little tease for the second segment here.
Yeah. It's the lead singer is, Jim Hackfield.
Right. Yeah.
Just fake.
I thought maybe you'd say Johnny Be Good, Back to the Future.
That's an
all-timer.
That's an all-timer. I mean, I feel like that kind of goes without saying. I love that. I mean, Alan Silvestri and his score for Back to the Future is just perfection.
Yeah.
I mean, John Williams was the score for our my childhood, essentially, for Star Wars and Indiana Jones and Home Alone and a lot of those films. But
yeah, I mean, this is a big question, so I'm just going.
I know you're I feel like you're sort of like delaying a bit here.
I'm going off the dome a bit here. I mean, if you're just talking, we could do a whole movie scores. Maybe that'll be a Patreon episode sometime.
Ooh,
thing. But as far as like uses of like a pop song in a movie, I mean, one band that we'll be talking about in our Patreon today, Public Enemy, they do a whole opening sort of choreographed number with the opening credits to Do the Right Thing, the Spike Lee movie, which is one of my probably top 3 favorite movies of all time. And they do Fight the Power, and Rosie Perez does a cool dance to it. So that's one of my favorites. Obviously, Quentin Tarantino, a master of using pop songs and specifically kind of 70s era songs in movies. I don't know if I have one specific one, but Reservoir Dogs was huge for me growing up. So that whole soundtrack is great. Like Little Green Bag is the opening credit song in that one, which is a great song. I'll do maybe like one or two more. So just there's too many. Wes Anderson, another great user of pop music, specifically when Margot Tenenbaum gets off the bus in Royal Tenenbaums and Nico plays. Great moment. Everything kind of slows down. Maybe one other one, which is Martin Scorsese, another great user of rock music in movies. Goodfellas, famously, a few of those. But I'll say one more, which is another reference that I'll get to in the second segment. But the song "Sounds of Silence" by Simon and Garfunkel.
Yes.
They use that very effectively in the movie The Graduate. So anyway, those are a few off the top of the head. Thanks, Brian. I'm into it.
Yeah,
Do you know what reference I'm making for the album?
Of course.
That's hilarious.
Absolutely.
Okay, yeah.
No, that was I was going to make that joke.
That's funny.
During that song. Yeah.
Good to know.
But we're very much on the same page with that.
Yeah. Good
but,
question.
Yes, great question. But speaking of Danny Leary left
he left us a podcast.
He left us 97 voicemails, all essentially about film.
Okay.
And Christopher Nolan. We can't listen to literally all 9 Danny Leary voicemails that he left, but this itself is we'll use this as sort of the discussion point.
Okay.
Hey, so I feel like the discussion about, oh, by the way, this is Dan Leary, if you can't tell. I feel like the discussion about Christopher Nolan should have been the box. It should have been part of the box. I have so many thoughts, and I'm definitely not going to get into them when I've already wasted a sixth of my voicemail just trying to ramp up. But it really, like, I completely get what John's saying, like the idea of, like, you know, abstraction and, like, you know, the art major versus English major thing, like, because I'm a huge fan of David Lynch and They Might Be Giants. And both of those artists completely skirt and reject the idea of, like, ever talking about intention, interpretation. They only let the listener or the watcher, you know, decide what the meaning is. However, Christopher Nolan seems like kind of a piece of shit, you know, like not in a real problematic way. Like there's no, like, he's seemingly never hurt anybody, but the whole, like, nobody can sit on my set and no one can sit down and all that shit. Like, come on. Like, he just seems like he feels he's already, and saying HBO Max is the third worst streaming platform or whatever the fuck. Like, just fuck off, dude. You know, like, Christopher Nolan really seems like a pretentious piece of shit, whereas, like, you know, David Lynch is super pretentious, but he has real artistic intent behind his stuff. I've got maybe another minute left. So my next big question is, like, I feel like you guys wrestle with lyrics a lot, and of course you do, because the type of bands you talk about are bands that are actually specifically trying to get a message out. Hey, you believe in Jesus, or hey, you hate abortion, you know? They're specifically trying to put ideas in your head. But when you wrestle with lyrics on the show so much, I've always been curious to hear you guys actually maybe talk about a band that has more abstract lyrics, like a Nirvana or something. Like Kurt Cobain didn't give a fuck about messages or lyrics or intent. He just wrote a tapestry of vague ideas, and he never, like, wanted to put a story in your head or something, right? And there's lots of Kurt Cobain is just the first thought that comes to my mind because that was one of my first bands I listened to. So I'd be curious to really hear you guys talk about a musical artist who doesn't care what images come to your mind or what thoughts come to your mind. Like, that's not important to music for that artist. Anyway, so many other thoughts. Let's open the box. That should be instead of MagPod for life, I'm going to say, let's open the box.
So, okay.
Cut off just in time. Good job,
Dan. So John, why don't we do that? Why don't we, at Danny Leary's insistence,
right? Let's
open the box. This one is called The Box. Let's talk about this for a second. And I was talking about this a little bit with Brian and Mark again last night when we were hanging out about this English major, art major. I guess intention is maybe one of the things that Danny Leary was getting to and kidding at with the difference between someone like Christopher Nolan and maybe and David Lynch, where the intentions of filmmakers could be different. Maybe David Lynch I guess I also sort of think about someone like C.S. Lewis versus Tolkien, where it's like Tolkien's like, fuck allegory and metaphor, you know, and he's just like, I'm going to create this world and create these characters, and I'm not just going to be like, but this character is the Jesus character. Okay, it's like
those rings may or may not be atomic bombs, but you know, whatever.
Well, you know, but also even like with like the Ents too, like industrialization and that sort of stuff. But it wasn't like it wasn't like beating you over the head with like with metaphor and allegory. That wasn't necessarily his style. So and I'm not making a value judgment and saying that like one person who does one thing is better or worse than the other. But I think to kind of going with what Danny was talking about with our discussion about the lyrics is that obviously when we're discussing Christian bands, there is a messaging thing going on. This is part of their ministry typically. So they are trying to convey a message. So there isn't a lot of nuance with songs that are like, you're an empty, soulless person. You're killing, you're aborting, children. That it's like, this is my final request. Why, save me, mommy. And it's like, there's not a lot of nuance there. So of course but like a future season when we might talk more indie artists and talk artists like Pedro or Starflyer 59 or any of these other bands that are maybe have a little bit more poeticism, which is why we really liked Ace Troubleshooter, because John Warren had a significant amount of lyrical prowess. And so it was a little bit different of a situation. But I want to hear some of your thoughts as the film buff of the pod.
Yes. Well, lots to chew on in that message, Danny. Thank you. I don't know that I necessarily make a distinction between I mean, certainly Christopher Nolan is sort of like a walking pomposity. It's like up his own ass. But his movies are also kind of goofy. Like, they're obviously packaged with this like pretension, but they're also like, I really think, my review of Tenet was like, it's cool to see people go backwards. I think that was basically the thought in his head. Right. He was like, hold on, what if spy movie, but backwards? And frankly, that's enough for me. So, and I will say, like, Memento, a movie I loved deeply growing up because trying to like sort of put together the pieces of this complex puzzle. Same with Prestige. And so I think he has that sort of complex capability as a filmmaker. And I probably overall prefer the Lynchian, we're not going to do the work for you, you're going to have to figure it out. But I also think it's like apples and oranges. Like, I like having a variety of things. I don't mind a Nolan movie where it's sort of big and obvious and maybe he's pretentious. And yes, I certainly don't disagree with him as he sort of appears as like a personality, but I had a lot of fun with Tenet regardless. So I don't know. It's interesting. Like you're saying, we haven't really had the chance to unpack or analyze lyrics that are a little more abstract or not as easy to put together. And I look forward to the sort of unique challenge of doing that, as you're saying, in a future season. But also part of what we were interested in with this from the beginning was sort of unpacking problematic things or like unpacking elements of the culture that are usually spelled out a little more explicitly. And maybe we wouldn't be able to do that quite as much with a Pedro the Lion or a Starflyer 59 or whatever. But, those opportunities will still be there. I don't know. It's been a fun process unpacking a lot of the bands that we have. But I would definitely be ready for something that's a little more tricky to wrestle with. So,
and you know how I do with some of those songs, those sort of tricky, like I get, I'm like, it's going to be a challenge for me. I'm just going to say, like, but that's probably a good thing to stretch myself in listening to songs that are not, it's not like like I've said on previous episodes, I don't need to be spoon-fed meaning in lyrics. It's just like, I can appreciate the poetic nature of lyrics, and not understanding what they mean more than a lack of specificity in like sort of a generic pop punk song where it's like this, whereas like this, like, not only do I not know what you're talking about, but I don't think you know what you're talking about. This is just so vague and generic.
A lot of these lyrics are written by teenagers also, which doesn't really help. So
yeah. And I'll say this about Christopher Nolan. He has kept Michael Caine employed for the better part of like 15 or 20 years. Yep. So like, is there been a Christopher Nolan film where like Michael Caine hasn't been in it in like,
not since the Dark Knight movies, at least. I don't think. I think he's been in every
since
way.
Batman Begins.
Right. Yeah, that whole trilogy.
So, but like Batman Begins, Prestige, Dark Knight, Inception, Dark Knight Rises, I don't know if that was maybe I don't know if that was a Nolan though.
It was.
It was Interstellar.
Yep.
Dunkirk.
Yep.
And Tenet.
Yep.
So like he's been like all of these. He's like so
well.
Michael Caine.
Michael Caine.
Michael Caine.
There's a man you'll have to go see, and he'll tell you what you need to do next.
He'll know, but he's dead. He's not alive. Or at least he will be, but not yet.
Oh man, we all love Tenet.
So after all that, I think it's time that we close up the box.
That one was called the box.
Food Lion. All right. So Danny Leary left 47 more voicemails.
Should we save them or no?
It's a lot of it is and when he was so I'll just play the beginning part of this one.
Hey, I've decided since Andrew called me out live at the moment that I'm leaving too many voicemails. I'm like, well, I'm going to go for it. I'm going to go for it 8 in less than half an hour. Going back to my earlier point about lyrics and abstraction, and doesn't even matter if your song says anything. Did you ever see Pollock, the biopic about Jackson Pollock starring Ed Harris? And early on in the movie, he's already begun to develop his famous style. Like we didn't see the moment he started it, but he's already starting to make these splatter paintings. And what's her name? Marcia Gay Harden comes in and starts looking at his new painting as he's working on it, and she starts analyzing it and turns to him. I can't remember all the things she says. She's analyzing it, turns to him and says, well, it can't just be random paint splotches on a canvas, right? And Ed Harris just doesn't say anything. He just takes a sip of his coffee. He's like, he's not going to tell what it is. And maybe it is just splotches on a canvas. That's not how I feel about all music. That's how I feel about a lot of music. Definitely when I first approach an artist or an album, I don't worry about what are they singing about, unless it's like clearly right in your face and is plain as day. Anyway, good movie, Pollock, Ed Harris.
All right, we'll stop it there. But I mean, I feel like that's fair. I oftentimes, I try and strike that balance. I try and like let the song speak for itself without needing to completely understand it, because this gets into a larger, art major 101 kind of conversation about like what is art for and who is art for, and is it meant to disturb the comfortable or comfort the disturbed, that kind of stuff. Like what is the point? And maybe in Pollock's case, like there doesn't need to be any grand meaning, and it can just be paint on a canvas, and that can also be just fine.
That's a great scene, by the way. I think about it a lot. She also said, I think it's the same thing where she says to Pollock, you've done it, you've cracked it wide open. And it's just this cool moment of sort of like understanding an approach to art and knowing when it sort of clicks. But yeah, again, I feel like it's apples and oranges. Like a lot of the reason why we loved 5 Iron and MXPX was the music, but also the message. And we were ready as kids for bands that questioned, systems and societies and churches. And that was a lot of what drew me to punk, and still does, not just with punk, but I do appreciate explicitly political art. But I also like songs about Banana Man. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think you have to choose, which is the great thing about art. So like, I don't know. I appreciate both. There are some bands for which, like, lyrics are at the forefront of sort of why I am interested in them, and there's others where it doesn't matter as much. So
I mean, that can certainly the case for something like hip hop, where the percussive nature of lyrics, and oftentimes, I mean, depending on the artist, that's, they're telling a bigger story. And so it's hard to, you wouldn't talk about hip hop without discussing lyrics,
right.
but especially when something is message based.
Yeah.
I mean, we got to, Banana Man, of course, we got to discuss, we'll get to the deeper meaning of Banana Man eventually.
Yeah. Who is the banana? That's a good one. That was a different variant at the beginning there.
That's true. What better way to end our voicemails than with a little phantom cackler?
Again, he knows just when to call in with a cackle.
He holds back,
and then release.
Full release. He's lusting and busting over there.
That's right. He knows when to put some stank on those cackles and when to vary it up.
Exactly.
That was a great crop of voicemails. Thanks, friends.
Thank you for everybody.
Lots to chew on.
Lots of good takes.
Speaking of which,
John, I think it might be time for the takes. Are you ready for yours?
Yes, let's go. Let's do it.
The Takes with John Park.
Oh, the best. I got some takes this week.
Yeah, you got some takes? Let's hear them.
They're pretty cold. They are not jalapeno limeade spicy, but
they're not peens slipping through your teenage fingies.
Not this week. As you mentioned earlier, we're going to a concert together, bro.
Ooh.
I haven't been to a concert since December 2019, and I've thought about it probably every day since then. Going to shows and going to movies are like the two things that the two sort of activities, outside of my family that truly bring me joy in this universe. And so tough run there for me in terms of those activities.
Yep.
But we're about to change all that. And the show that we're going to see is Juliana Theory. Well, the current iteration of Juliana Theory, performing Emotion is Dead in its entirety, and May performing The Everglow in its entirety. And I have to go to this, and I'm excited to go with you. And we were just talking relatively recently on the pod about what a great album Emotion is Dead is and how meaningful it was for both of us. And I listened to it fairly recently, and I was just like, man, every song on the album, truly an all-timer. I don't know the sort of emo world super well, and there are enough from the sort of late 90s punk adjacent emo world that I knew them. But that album was huge for me, even if I didn't know a lot of the other comparable records, including The Everglow. May was one that just kind of like, I feel like that came out right as I was kind of like leaving college and sort of not really into the whole emo scene, didn't know as much about it. So I'm trying to listen to that album to get ready for this, but I'm mainly focused on Emotion is Dead and seeing those songs live and how excited I am to be able to do that once again. So much goodness. So been listening to those. Those are my two big records this week, songs that came out 20 years ago. But I'm just thinking about shows, and I saw today Patreon Punk Caleb posted about he just got tickets to a show, his first show, and I think he said he's seeing Motion City Soundtrack, which rules. Minneapolis, holler. But somebody commented that they were seeing Idols, and I was like, Idols is touring? Shit. And went to look it up, and yep, they're playing the Riv in Chicago, and it's sold out. So I guess I missed that one. They're playing in St. Paul, and that's not sold out.
Oh shit, where are they playing?
The Palace, I believe.
Ooh,
which would be good. And that's in October. So I don't know if I'll make it up for that, but you should go. Maybe I'll come with you. We'll see. But
you know what? Let's just talk for a second about
which pictures have a car, or
which pictures have a bicycle, which pictures have whatever. It's like if is it?
Think robots could develop that technology?
Does the picture need to be like? Does the bike need to be like 40 feet away, like blurry and in the background, like impossible to see. Like,
you gotta check those robots.
I mean, it's just absurd, man. Oh, come on, dude. Like, you got to come to the Palace Theater.
Yeah, I might have to. I'm going to be going up there a lot, I guess. But
I mean, this is October.
Yeah, we could. I think we'll make it happen. Anyway, their record was on both of our best of lists last year.
Yeah.
And their one before that was on yours.
Yes, exactly.
Before that, which I would have done if I had listened to it more. Anyway, so I've been listening to them a lot over the last year and thinking about how much fun it'll be to see them live.
Yep.
And they actually are a band that I was thinking about that does a good job. I mean, as you said on a previous episode, he sort of got called out for like having too obvious of lyrics.
Yes. Well, that was on Pitchfork, and that made me angry. I had like a whole long ass Facebook post about it. I was just like so mad about like, come on, guys, like, and because that's the thing, like, just because something is like all lyrics need to be convoluted and mysterious and cryptic, that's what makes something art. Like, you can't. This goes back to, again, like, if we're talking Pollock, like, you know, art isn't like one thing. It doesn't need to be one thing to be art. And that's the sort of stuff where it's like when we start trying to figure out how do we define it and like nailing down specifically, this is what makes something art. That's what starts frustrating me. It's like something can be silly and dumb and about a Banana Man costume, and that can also be art. And so can like Tom Waits, and so can, you know, some goofy ska band from the 90s.
Yeah. But they were actually a band that I was thinking of just now when we were talking about what bands are you sort of drawn to in terms of their politics. They might have sort of like perhaps obvious lyrics, I guess, although I think that's part of what they're trying to do. It's sort of in this long punk tradition of political lyrics. So anyway, I think they do a great job of sort of conveying the immediacy of the moment, and that's part of why I like them so much. But boy, I don't know if my brain is ready for like a full being like sweaty and grabbing onto people and lyrics spitting into the air and everything. I mean, singers spitting into the air at a show, but Danny Nedelko.
Yeah.
Can you imagine seeing that live right now? What a release it would be, a full release.
I would be so excited.
So anyway, perhaps that will happen. Idols is not one of my takes. I have one more here. Also cold. A year ago, the Queer Eye episode with Noah Hepler, who was an ELCA Lutheran pastor, came out, and I got to interview him for the magazine I worked for. And another person who was on that episode was Megan Rohrer, who just this week was elected bishop in the ELCA, and they're the first trans bishop in a major U.S. denomination. So I got to interview them this week, and that interview will be coming out soon. But I rewatched that episode, and it's so powerful, man. We've talked about Queer Eye a little bit on the pod, but that episode in particular, I think, really deals with sort of faith and social justice issues in such a fascinating way. And Megan's moment from the episode that kind of people remember the most is when they asked this pastor Noah, like, would you ever tell someone in your congregation that they didn't come out soon enough? Because that's kind of what he was wrestling with. And he said no. And they said, then why do you tell yourself that, child of God? Yeah. And just like, it was just such this moment of like, whoa. So anyway, that's Megan. She's a bishop now. I talked to her. I talked to them, and it's a great episode of TV if people haven't seen that. So
yeah, that just you saying that again after not having watched that for a year just sort of gave me chills.
I know, man. Yeah, it was a big moment.
Yeah,
anyway,
I'm excited for their. I think they're in Texas right now.
San Francisco.
Right? Yeah. Wait. No, it's Queer Eye.
Oh, sorry. I thought you meant this bishop. Sorry. I don't know where. Yeah, that sounds right. Queer Eye, Texas.
I thought I saw that they were. I thought I saw them posting pictures that they were going to be in Texas. But anyway, yeah. Those your takes.
Those are my cold takes.
No, those are good takes, bro.
What about you? How are those takes?
What about mine?
The takes with Andrew Phelan.
Okay, so my takes are a little. I have two takes. One of them is I'm a little behind on certain things, but like So in the Discord, our boy Brian Canberra, aka the Rudy Librarian,
Yes.
We were talking about some ska stuff, obviously, yesterday, and we were talking about the Inevitables, how they have, so their album was on my top 10 of albums last year.
Yes.
And this year they've released some dub versions of some of their songs from that record, and they're just so great. So it's called The Inevitables versus the Youth City Sound System, and they got some folks coming in to support those tracks. So you got Brittany Luna of Catbite. We got New York City ska pioneer King Django, Linville Golding from the legendary ska Godfathers, the Specials.
Cool.
And it's got some it's just I've been getting so much more into dub stuff in recent years, and that album, the Hepcat album Right on Time, their vinyl release that came with a dub version of some tracks from that record, that's just outstanding. But Brian was also asking me if I was familiar with the Long Beach Dub All-Stars, which I knew the name, but I hadn't listened to them at all, really, at all. And so I started listening to their album Right Back yesterday and some today. And I'm like, oh God, this fucking rules.
Yeah.
This is so great. And so I'm really excited because now I'm like, I have all these Long Beach Dub All-Star records to go through. And it just made me so glad to think too about that ska has such a beautiful and rich history. And I'm grateful for people like Danny Leary, who are consistent champions of ska history and making sure that there isn't cultural erasure when it comes to things like ska, because people are constantly that ska is just mariachi for white people or whatever, or something. I don't know what it is, some stupid joke that just is saying that ska is a white person thing, and that just erases all of the roots and all the significance that ska has had outside of the Southern California white party bro thing that people kind of associate with. That people sort of look, they in their mind's eye, they think of Real Big Fish and mozzarella sticks, and that's like that is just all you need to do is Google for 3 seconds to realize that this is not the case. Yeah,
that's classic white appropriation history.
They take something and then people start associating it with white people, and then it's it just becomes a white thing. See Danny Leary's many social media accounts for more on that topic. Yes.
He certainly addressed this many times. Shout out to Brian Canberra also for launching his podcast this week, The Rudy Librarian.
Yes.
Rudy Librarian, a little bit of a tongue twister. Now a podcast and first episode with Leonore from Five Iron. So go check that out.
It's a big get for your first app.
That's a good first guest.
Yeah.
Long Beach Dub All-Stars, they grew out of Sublime.
Yes.
So I remember seeing them at Warped Tour a couple times, at least Warped Tour, and had a really good time with them. I never got to see Sublime, but I think I saw the whatever Sublime version came after that, but seeing Long Beach Dub All-Stars after that was sort of enough to appease me, and I remember having a really good time seeing them. So,
dude, I bet that audience was just one big cloud of weed.
It smelled good.
Here's my other take. In therapy yesterday, I was talking to Doug, my therapist, about just kind of where I've been lately emotionally, and he told me about this New York Times article by this guy. He's a psychologist named Adam Grant, and the article is called "There's a Name for the Blah You're Feeling. It's called Languishing. The neglected middle child of mental health can dull your motivation and focus, and it may be the dominant emotion of 2021."
Yes, I read this too, and hard agreed.
Yeah. And so you can not only can you go and read the article, but there is you can listen to Adam read it. It's just like 9 minutes of him reading the article, and it's not something that I've really put a name to before, of my feeling, the languishing, that it says, talking about like what we were feeling, and he says it wasn't burnout, we still had energy, it wasn't depression, we didn't feel hopeless, we just felt somewhat joyless and aimless. It turns out there's a name for it: languishing. And it said, in psychology, we think about mental health on a spectrum from depression to flourishing. Flourishing is the peak of well-being. You have a strong sense of meaning, mastery, and mattering to others. Depression is the valley of ill-being. You feel despondent, drained, and worthless. Languishing is the neglected middle child of mental health. It's the void between depression and flourishing, the absence of well-being. You don't have symptoms of mental illness, but you're not the picture of mental health either. You're not functioning at full capacity. Languishing dulls your motivation, disrupts your ability to focus, and triple the odds that you'll cut back on work. And it says it appears to be more common than major depression. And
yep,
the dulled motivation, lack of focus, and not being able to work is just like exactly what I've been feeling for the past year.
Yeah, man.
And so it says, new evidence from the pandemic healthcare workers in Italy shows that those who are languishing in the spring of 2020 were 3 times more likely than their peers to be diagnosed with PTSD.
Yeah, geez.
So, but also just talks about the collective sense of grief that we're all feeling. And there's something else too, that this is very much me. Last summer, the journalist Daphne K. Lee tweeted about a Chinese expression that translates to, quote, revenge bedtime procrastination.
Yeah.
She described it as staying up late at night to reclaim the freedom we've missed during the day. I've started to wonder if it's not just so much retaliation against a loss of control as an act of quiet defiance against languishing. It's a search for bliss in a bleak day, connection in a lonely week, or purpose in a perpetual pandemic. And I've called it something. I've called that something else, but like I have not associated this concept with like reclaiming time so much as it is just sort of putting off going to bed as like a sense of like as a symptom of my anxiety. But
right,
I mean, it's partially probably part of that, just feeling like I don't feel like I have a lot of drive and meaning and purpose right now. And that's what I'm looking to try and find ways to reclaim in a year that's feels like there's at least a glimmer of hope on the horizon as we talk about making plans and seeing each other and hugging people we love.
Yeah, man. I'm glad you shared that. It's so well articulated and is such a distillation of all the things of last year that have been so hard. And yeah, I feel like in my case, I'm like half working during the day because the kids are here and I'm stressed and kids are stressful and work is stressful and we're not seeing friends or family. We're not doing stuff. And so the one time I can do stuff after like I finally, whatever, do the dishes and take a shower and do whatever is like late at night. And I'm like, no, I'm staying up.
Yeah.
I'm doing a fun thing for me, for Johnny.
Yeah.
And that results in me going to bed way too late. And then I get up, but I'm tired, and I drink too much coffee, and I eat garbage because I'm sitting in my house all day, and I don't exercise enough, and it's all just one big ball of languishing. So
this paragraph made me think of you, and I don't mean to like call you out specifically. While finding new challenges, enjoyable experiences, meaningful work are all possible remedies to languishing, it's hard to find flow when you can't focus. This was a problem long before the pandemic, when people were habitually checking emails 74 times a day and switching tasks every 10 minutes. In the past year, many of us have also been struggling with interruptions from kids around the house, colleagues around the world, and bosses around the clock.
Yep. Sounds right.
Yeah. But there, I should note that there is a sister article to this that came out after about flourishing. So it's not just like now only focusing on the negative, but like maybe some solutions to the languishing and maybe moving into a more flourishing way of life.
Yeah. Yep. That's great, man. It's a good take.
Yeah.
Well, should we take a little break and get into this this interesting album?
Yes, it is an album.
That is true.
It is songs put together in a sequence.
Yeah.
And it was released.
This is gonna be interesting.
Yeah. So when we come back, we will be discussing the third and final Value Pac record, Incognito.
Hi, my name is Stephen Long, and I host a show here on Rock Candy called Sacred Tension. It's about the spiritual discipline of asking questions. If you find yourself uncomfortable in your faith, or if you find yourself caught between modern science and ancient religion, or if you're curious about the journeys of others who are sorting out faith and doubt, Sacred Tension is a place where nothing is off limits. You will find conversations with pastors, cult experts, spiritual leaders, and skeptics, all discussing the ways we navigate the faiths we were given. Find Sacred Tension right here on Rock Candy and wherever you listen to podcasts.
To make you cry.
Reverb on every fucking song.
Drums played by not a member of Value Pac on that song.
Yes, that's how you know it's one of the good songs. Hey, so we're talking Incognito.
I didn't recognize you there, Andrew. You were in disguise. You were Incognito. That's how I was gonna start the segment. I forgot.
Yeah, I got my funny nose glasses on with my little mustache. Have you ever thought that sort of like mustache, like, what are they going for? Are they going for like a Hitler mustache? What are they going for, like a Groucho Marx kind of situation? What are they going for?
I guess so. Yeah, it was probably more popular at the time of those glasses peak popularity. Groucho style stash.
Yeah. So this album came out in 2000 on Four Door Entertainment.
Never heard of him.
No, and from what I understand, it was created by Chuck Cummings, who was the drummer for Value Pac during this time.
Yeah, I assumed it went the other way, but maybe it was different than that. I assumed it was like a guy who had a label and was like, well, I can play the drums, but you're saying he was the drummer and said, I could start a label.
I think this is what was at least conveyed to me from our shadow producer, Jason.
From the shadow producer.
Yeah, yes. where Jason is incognito. That's in the shadows.
Hiding, giving us little bits and morsels.
Yeah.
I don't know what to say about how this came to be, but maybe you have more info.
I mean, it seemed that they broke up between Jalapeño and this record, because the only original members that remained were Ryan and Sean.
Yeah, well, and it's a different Sean on this record, because the last record it was Sean
Humston,
and this is Sean Paul, who is not the Jamaican dancehall artist Sean Paul, different dude. So I don't know. It is
a different dude. It's not just Sean Humston trying to go by a cool name.
No, I looked up the credits. A different person apparently.
You are right. It is.
Yeah. So it's just Ryan, and I assume, perhaps incorrectly, but there's some things you could read into this that suggest maybe there was some falling out between Ryan and perhaps the drummer. I don't know, but Sean Paul steps in on bass and background vocals. The bass occasionally does some interesting things on this record, but is not like the other two albums. This is just one of many things that's not like the other two albums, but the bass sounds very different.
One of the main things that's different about this record is that the Jalapeño was good. That's one of the main differences.
All right, yeah, that is a nuanced artistic.
Also that Jalapeño charted.
True.
And did well.
I mean, there's so much about this that is curious, and I would like to hear more.
And I want it to be clear. I am going to shit on this record.
I thought you were going to say, I don't want to just be overly negative.
No, but what I'm going to say is I don't like this album.
Sure.
I almost had I almost came into this episode. I told John before we started recording that like I don't have a top 3 because I can't definitively choose 3 songs on this record that I even feel that strongly about, that I'm like, oh, I enjoy these songs to an extent that like I would say that they're a top. And
Sure.
It's like I was gonna like protest and not choose a top 3 because
just gonna cross your arms.
Yeah, I just gonna pout and pout my bottom lip and say, I'm not gonna do it, John.
I don't like this one. Yeah, I mean, it's curious in many ways. I don't think that, I mean, it has been out of print for years. Indie Vision Music, who we've talked about a couple times in this Value Pac run, has it up on their Bandcamp now, which is cool for fans who haven't heard it, but I don't think it's particularly well received or even well known by most fans. So I think just in the past couple of years when they put it up is when a lot of people heard it. And yeah, Four Door Entertainment, Chuck Cummings, the owner, plays drums on almost every song. Ethan Luck,
Right.
Multi-faceted tooth and nail player, will step into your band and do some stuff, plays lead guitar on half the songs, which is interesting. But yeah, it's curious in a number of ways. One of which is like, because Jalapeño was so great and they were really kind of digging out a specific niche for themselves, and then completely abandoned that sound on this record. And I guess it's an attempt at a more mature sound. But it's so hard to believe that this is the band that put out Jalapeño
Yeah.
previous to this release.
Kind of getting to your point about like how this album was received, at least from the very little interaction we've had from listeners, that's the only thing that I've heard from people is I haven't heard people be like, oh, this is a sleeper album and it's actually really good. Like I've only heard people who are like, no, this is I'm very curious. They're like, I'm curious what you're going to say because this album is not great.
Well, it's weird. It's weird that they decided on this direction. It's weird that they're on this label nobody's ever heard of. It's weird that nobody's really heard this album at all since then. Yeah, I would just be curious to learn more about all of that. And I will say it doesn't sound great either. The mix is weird. As you said, everything sounds really live and reverby, which is odd, partly because it was produced by a sort of punk legend, Dennis Daniel from Social D.
That's why it sounds reverby and live, is because
Social D style.
Social D.
Yeah, but that sounds good when they do it.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like nobody says like, so here's the thing. I like Social Distortion.
Yeah.
I saw them. They were like one of the first shows that I saw when I moved up here.
Nice.
In 2019, I got to see Social D, and here's the thing too about Social D, like live, is that just like tack on more reverb. I mean, it's like
sure,
it's like Todd Glass's favorite kind of concert.
Exactly.
That is a reference that 0 people are going to get because
we've made the reference.
Made that dumb reference that no one, whatever. So get more reverb in there. But so again, Social D, great legends. But nobody's like, we need more. We need more bands that sound like Social Distortion. Like we need more people who sing like Mike Ness. Like
he's got a very specific.
It's so specific,
quality.
And I feel like Social D is an exception, not the rule. Like it's not a. They go for so many different kinds of styles on this record.
Yeah.
That they are not good at. And this like Ryan nailed the like Jalapeño, he nailed like there's like it was like an extension from their debut to Jalapeño that was like he figured out what he was doing, and then he like just sort of leaned into that sort of more gravelly and gruff sort of rancidy street punk kind of sound, and we're like, oh, this works, this is great,
right? Yeah.
And then they're like, well, here's an idea. What if like the things that got us charting in position 20 and like whatever it was, the Christian albums, like all those things that made us successful, what if we like didn't do any of those?
Yeah, it was obviously intentional, but I don't know why.
This is not accidental. So one of the things too that that Danny Leary had left us a voicemail about was the difference between Tooth and Nail and BEC. And we were sort of talking about that. And his understanding and his explanation was that BEC was created as sort of the launching pad for bands that Ebel thought would be the crossover bands.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense.
And or the bands that like had crossover potential. So, when we talked about Ace, we talked about Value Pac and some of these bands that we're like, oh, why didn't they have more crossover potential? And I think that was sort of the aim.
That makes sense.
And then whatever decision led to them not being with BEC anymore, or Tooth and Nail, or whatever, however that came to be, to leave, and then whether they broke up or whatever the case, because it was a sort of weird contractual thing that I imagine, like who at Tooth and Nail or BEC only does like a 2-album deal. That just seems like sort of unusual. And then to go from that to I have so many questions about what the reasoning is for why this album came to be the way it was. But the most curious thing to me is the little blurb on the Indie Vision Bandcamp.
Yeah.
Did you read this by any chance?
I did. I think it's him putting a sort of positive spin on the whole thing, but continue.
So this is what is written about this record. Released in the year 2000 on Four Door Entertainment, this punk rock album by Orange County band Value Pac far exceeded expectations for their comeback after the 1997 sophomore release Jalapeño. The gritty yet poppy delivery of music was unmatched by most bands in their scene. The band had come into their own signature sound by the time Incognito hit, and that is why it remains a much sought after classic release. The album has been out of print for a number of years, but is now available once again from our Bandcamp right here with the blessing of former Four Door Entertainment owner Chuck Cummings.
I mean, here's what I'll say.
Uh-huh.
I know that Brandon, right? That's his name from Indie Music. I believe it's Brandon Jones.
Yeah.
Was close with the band. Like we said, we read some of his like blog posts about interacting with them, and I think Indie Music does a lot of really cool stuff, and they provide a cool service in a lot of ways. So if there are like Value Pac completists out there, please go give him your money for this record if you want to download it.
Yeah, I bought it for this, so we're gonna I purchased it for this episode, and then this is, I'm not just streaming it off the site. I wanted to, I've purchased other stuff from Indie too. Go, they put out some good stuff, so go support them.
Indie rad, and obviously he's got like a sort of biased take here. He worked to get this album out, so he's got a different approach to it than we do. But yeah, I think he may be experiencing it a little differently than most people. When I was looking up like fan reviews and stuff, it did not rank particularly high in the reviews that I was reading.
A classic release though?
Yeah, I don't think it'd be classic if it's been like out of print, because nobody knows what it is. I mean, yeah, it just, the main thing is like what you were saying. Like we said everything got better from the self-titled to Jalapeño. I think changed again here. Like they went back to like not being as effective as that record. There's no ska leanings this time at all.
No.
There's no sort of Bay Area skate punk sound. It's all pretty straight ahead, pop leaning punk / rock. And the vocals are so different, as you said, like that sort of sneering, rougher, rancid style that I loved that he developed on Jalapeño is completely gone. And not only is it kind of like that breathy pop rock vocals that I'm not into, but it's like he's flat a lot, which again, I don't get it. Like maybe if this was their first record, but I'm not sure what happened in the production that was the case. And as we said, like, okay, so yeah, Dennis from Social Distortion produced it, but this is only one of 2 records that he produced. The only other one he did is this band, the Deluxe Tone Rockets, who I've never heard of. So he maybe didn't have a ton of production experience, but also like tragically, he died that same year. Like he died before this even came out. So that is sad. So maybe he didn't get to finish everything. I don't know. It was recorded at the Casbah in California and at Air Room Studios in Anaheim. It was engineered by Brian Toklin and Albert Mendoza, mixed by Bob Salcedo, mastered by Gavin Lesson. These are not names that we've heard at all this season. No. And usually with like, the engineering technical folks, we've heard of some of them. I don't know how this came to be. I think some of these songs could be a lot better if they were more polished and recorded better, maybe fleshed out a bit more, a few more interesting production choices or texture elements, but there aren't many surprising elements on this album, songwriting wise or production wise. So if it's a song that's already like kind of okay, there's nothing that sort of puts it over the top, like a lot of those fun little different textures we called out with Jalapeño. And couldn't find the lyrics anywhere.
Nope.
So discussion of the themes might be a little not as in-depth as usual, perhaps, or our analysis may not be spot on because we're just hearing what we can. But that's a lot of context for a curious record. But that's kind of all I have to say. Should we?
I just wanted to. I feel like people would give us a little shit if we didn't. The Deluxe Tone Rockets was a tooth and nail band.
Okay.
And they were sort of part of the swing revival.
Okay.
Movement, and I don't think they really lasted. They had a song on the Happy Christmas Volume 2, but they were not long for the world.
Sure, that sounds vaguely familiar now that you say it, but sorry for all those Deluxe Tone heads out there. I was not not looped in on that one.
Those Deluxe Tone rock heads.
Yeah, that's what I assume they're called. Well, let's start it off with a song that I think is good.
All right. Corporate Cover Up. This is my number one.
Me too. I actually really like this song.
I think it's a good song. I still feel like I feel like it would fit on like the first record.
It's more aligned with that sound. And maybe I'll take that because I'm looking for anything that sounds like Value Pac.
Yeah.
And those moments are few and far between. If this was on Jalapeño, it would not make my top 3.
No.
But it sounds, even if it sounds like a different band in some ways, it sounds enough like the sort of evolution of them. Like I can trace this back to their first record where I'm like, okay, well, they're trying something else, but it's the same band. That's not the case with too many of the songs on this album.
No.
And the vocals sound really different. He sounds more like he sounded on the first record again.
Yeah.
I think this would sound so much cooler if he was like, "We're so far away," you know what I mean? Like
exactly.
more of that style. So I don't get that. Maybe he was told to sing cleaner. I don't know.
I think this is what they were trying to do. I think that this was the year 2000. Bands like Slick Shoes, and then a little bit later MXPX with Before Everything and After. Early 2000s, people were trying to be like, okay, so punk rock, if you're going to succeed, you need to put a little, not so much stink on it, you got to put a little sheen on it. Right. And so they were trying to go, I'm assuming they were trying to go radio friendly, go a little bit more, still get a little bit of that punk rock edge in there, but they were trying to glossen it up. And this that obviously didn't do the trick.
Right. It rarely works when bands attempt that.
If you start off, if this was their first record and this is how they started, but it's just such a diversion from their roots to like, I'm just genuinely confused as to the evolution of this record, other than like being like, let's try and write as mainstream as possible.
Right.
And if that's the explanation, then I guess I can understand that that's what they had in mind. But the idea that this is what they thought was the mainstream, like would be like what they thought that this would be successful. These types of songs and this sort of production and this sort of the vocal affectations that we're going to hear in some songs that to me are just hard to listen to.
Usually with the sort of let's do a more glossy trajectory that's paired with like very clean and big production, and this sounds worse than their previous record, recorded by a guy from a band not known for that kind of clean music. So curious. Having said that, really like the song. Third Value Pac album in a row where the first song is my number one. I think they do a great job at kicking off albums with energy, and they are genuinely or generally a band that knows good melodies, and I think that's on display here. I really like the background vocals in the chorus with the like so far away. That's really cool. That sort of reminds me of Value Pac. There's some cool bass moments on this one too. It's
in the lead up to the chorus.
There's at least some interesting bass stuff happening here as opposed to most of the album where you don't really notice it. But yeah, I think it's a fun driving punk song. I like the energy. As far as I can tell with the lyrics, I think he's sort of, it's about a relationship that went bad. I think sort of comparing the damage done there to like a corporate cover up, like how they would sort of cover up damage. That's sort of the idea I'm getting. But again, I don't totally know.
Sweeping things under the rug or trying to hide the evidence or something. I don't know.
Yeah, which is kind of a cool notion.
It's a cool idea. Yeah. I really wish. I was Googling like hell trying to find lyrics for any of this. No. They are not out there for this classic release, this much sought after classic release.
Yeah. Let us know if you've got the lyrics.
Let us know if you think this is a much sought after classic release. Showdown.
Complications have been raised. I
can see it in your eyes. Will you still be my friend? Will it constitute the end? Now you think you've got me all figured out. Justify all the answers to all your doubts. You'll paint a picture of me and hang it in your room for all the world to see. You know it's coming down with you. You'll fall to pieces and you'll try to take me too. Even we can't bow. I'm calling you out.
This would be my number 2.
Me too.
Yep.
I like that we're aligned when you throw out your top 3 altogether. Yeah, this is one that my first listen through, I was like, excuse me? Like when he's like, complications in my mind. I'm like, this is not how you have sounded at all.
No, it's like, he's like trying to be sexy or something. I don't like, that's kind of what I hear is like, it's like, it's just like, ooh, are you, I see like a dude wearing like leather pants. I see like a Scott Stapp on stage trying to be like,
yes, Scott Stapp did come to mind a couple times because I'm like, what is it that they're going for here? And I'm like, maybe it's Creed, like Creed adjacent, which is a bummer.
Maybe.
But
there is a song coming up.
Yes,
that's
there is. Creed-esque.
Butt rock adjacent.
Yes, I put butt rock in my notes. No, this is when I imagine the guy from the band in School of Rock, where he's like just wearing the sleeves and has like the tattoo on his chest, like sort of writhing around, that kind of guy.
Yes,
now,
exactly.
My first listen through, I was like, I don't know. But then the second time I was like, this is kind of fun. Like, I kind of dig that. It almost sounds like the Misfits or something. He sounds like Danziggy. So he sounds like a different singer. Having said that, I think it's pretty cool. Like the chorus is really catchy. Again, they have those nice background vocals going in the chorus which helps. And he sounds more like himself again in the chorus. It's really only the verses when he's doing this, but I kind of dig that also. I think it's kind of cool. I don't know.
Yeah, he puts a little grit on his voice in the chorus.
Yes.
He's like, I'm calling you out.
Right.
He puts
a
little bit on there. But then he's like, let's get back to the sexy times.
Right. Now, as I was saying in verse 1. But
he started sounding a little Bowie there.
Yeah, he did. There's some Bowie in this.
There's some little...
When I was just saying that, it reminded me of Michael Bolton in the Lonely Island song, where he's like, now back to the good part.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, that's kind of how I feel like he is. Like, let's get back to this.
Rectify your every need.
Yeah. You love the breathiness.
Well, that's a different kind. The breathiness I don't like is the like, when we were doing this. But this is more like, I'm kind of a scary rock guy.
Terrifying.
It was very scary. But I don't know. I like it. And I like that dun, dun, like that chord progression. I think that's cool. There's a decent guitar solo later.
Yeah, there's a part. I like that. I like that little part there.
Right.
But the sort of theater of his vocals,
right, it makes it tough.
Yeah, it makes it a little cringy at times.
Lyrically, again, I think another relationship that went bad, maybe. Talking a lot about evil deeds. I don't know exactly. He says he talks about selling out the one who gave you life. And I was like, I thought this was about relationships. Is this God? Are you talking about God? Are you talking about somebody's mom? I don't know. But he's like,
did he lose his mom between?
I feel like could be. Okay.
I feel like I read that he lost his mom between Jalapeño and this record.
Okay. So perhaps it's like a family dynamic thing. He's like, you'll fall to pieces and you'll try to take me too. I'm calling you out. Be a man and take some of the blame. So I'm like, it's obviously I don't know. I have
or maybe it's a band member situation.
I think it might be a band member situation. I feel like there's a couple songs that sort of allude to perhaps former band members and where they may have parted. That's obviously all just theorizing, but I think that's what's going down.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think it's pretty fun overall.
Hey, John, shut up.
Hey. Okay.
Shut up.
Yeah, sorry.
I don't care.
I don't want to hear about your day.
I don't want to hear about your day. Shut up. Okay. We're listening to Little Cheyenne here.
Hello, where have I seen you before? You left me hanging on and out at your door. No one knows what I've been going through because of you and everything you do. Cheyenne, are you there? Are you listening? Cheyenne, you don't know what you're missing. Cheyenne, will you move my direction as time goes by?
Maybe do another take there, guys.
Yeah. I just truly, I don't get the vocals, especially. I'm like, did they?
That whole thing was flat.
It was flat, and the harmonies come in and they're flat. Like,
yes.
I don't understand. There must be some explanation, but like, put some vocal effect that makes it rougher so we don't notice, or get some better monitors happening. I don't know, but it seems like the kind of thing that at this point in their sort of band career could have been caught. Some of these like 50s kind of melodies and harmonies, like some of their stuff, I think work okay, but it's not at the same level of those other songs. There's definitely kind of a Social D sound.
That was the chorus. This is the first Social D adjacent song.
Right. The story of my life. It sounds like he's gonna do that any minute.
Not enough nasal on there.
Exactly. The bridge is kind of cool. And then there is the shut up that you were referencing.
Yeah.
Say goodbye, don't drop me a line. I can't get to sleep at night, but I'll be fine. Every now and then I'll think of us and what we had and what you lost. Cheyenne, are you there?
A little pitchy.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know. It fine. An interesting one here lyrically, talking about Cheyenne, who I assume is a lady, but
I was assuming he was talking about Wyoming the whole time.
Could be. Loves Wyoming. But then it's like, only God can show me when I'm right. Only God can hear me when I cry. And then it's like, shut up. I don't want to hear about your day. I don't want to know your name.
Yeah.
But I'm like, but he knows it's Cheyenne? I don't know. Like, I'm a little confused. I think it's another kind of, he's down and out about a relationship situation. So
yeah.
Anyway.
Do we need to listen to this next song?
This is the first one that truly sucks.
This is Bad Bad Me.
Bad song.
I told the story, it's impossible. I know I was wrong, but it's everything I was fighting for.
Yeah.
I am sorry, I don't mean no harm, but I can't explain the evil ways of my heart anymore.
Ways.
My heart's been broken.
All right, we need to do any more of that?
Oh man, it's damn
tears falling out of his goddamn face, bro.
Yeah, I had the same thought. This sounds like a band that like Homestar Runner would have as like a joke band or something. It's impossible. Just like, I thought it was like a joke at first. You know, they have some of their songs where it like starts out and you're like, what's happening? And then it like breaks into a completely different style. But it never does that. It stays in this very weird. I don't know what this is.
It also happens to be the longest song on the record.
It's so long. Too long. I don't know what this is. It's certainly not punk. This is where I wrote
it's butt rock
vibe. Yeah,
rock vibes. This is Creed butt rock year 2000 adjacent.
Yep.
Like you're trying to be either Scott Stapp or James Hetfield or the lead singer of literally, Puddle of Stained Mud, like, whatever. It's just like, this is not Ryan's voice.
Right.
Which is why it sounds not great, because it doesn't sound like his natural voice. It's just, it's strained. It sounds like there's effort being put into it.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. This is the same guy who sang like Nothing on Jalapeño, like, it's so weird. I don't know. Yeah. If you want to do this, like start a new band and don't call it Value Pac. That's my takeaway.
Yeah.
Even the guitar solo that comes like kind of sounds out of key. Like it is a straight up bummer.
Yeah.
All the way around. Lyrics also.
I've been forsaken. I don't believe in anything.
It's just like, again, I appreciate that these guys, I'm guessing that they didn't have a lot of time or money to make this thing happen. I don't know why, but that sucks. I mean, I don't understand. Lyrically, I can't explain the evil ways of my heart. I don't even know where I belong in this world anymore. It's on the nose. He says, Mommy, Daddy, did I let you know? Or did I let you down? I've been forgiven and I've been forsaken. He loves talking about being forsaken. I don't know.
Yes.
He's a bad, bad boy.
Ooh. Give him fuel, give him fire.
Give me that one. Yep.
Listen to that song instead of this
sounds
song.
Like a better plan.
All right.
Anyway.
Bad Bad Me is a bad, bad song. Let's move on to Heart of Stone.
What do you say? You and me go out, and we'll have a laugh for 2 or 10. Then maybe the world will understand what we're all about. I didn't know that I could feel this way, the way you make me feel. Now I know what this heart of stone was made for. Just to be polite when I'm on my knees. You pick me up and wish me luck and send me on my way. Do you
All right. Another Social D adjacent
song.
Jangly kind of acoustic guitar sounds. There's so much reverb on everything.
There's, a lot. Which again, I'm just like, did you have to do this live? Like, I just don't understand.
But like, it was a choice. All of this was a choice that they were.
Maybe they didn't have the choice to do more than one take. I don't know.
I'm befuddled.
I I kind of dig the vibe of this one in the sense that it's like sort of in that 50s style of some of their songs that I like. But it never really shifts to the next gear.
No.
And again, like the vocal delivery from the start just kind of puts me off.
There are a handful of songs on this record that I feel like have potential.
Yes,
that,
for sure.
That I'm like, they're doing something is being done, and the execution is what blows it for me.
Agreed. I have that note on a few songs. I think this could be one that could at least be like, kind of a cool vibe for a song.
But not a Value Pac song.
Not a Value Pac song.
This is not a value. This does not feel like a Value Pac album. This feels like a wholly separate band that Ryan should have been like,
this is my new thing.
Value Pac is done. Let's call it quits. I'm going to start something else. And evidently he did start another band that I could not, somebody had communicated to me. I don't remember where it was, but he started a band and it was they had a MySpace page, and the music and all the information is no longer up there.
I know he's got solo records and stuff, but it's very hard to find. He's hard to find online in any way. So I don't know. It's okay. There's kind of like a slowed down section toward the end that sort of reminds me of Do Your Feet Hurt? So I guess that's kind of cool. Fine.
Do Your Feet Hurt? Were you forsaken?
I know that you were forsaken. I don't know.
Because you've been forsaking through my mind all day. That's the way it goes.
This is a story about my Midori and we went to sleep, horseman for a pillow. No fun at all. Standing beside me, always standing by me. The voices are scaring me. Sorry, but it's true that I hate you. Well, I know that's all she wrote. That's the way it goes. She lost her virginity due to insanity. Now he is free. Just
Curious line there.
She lost her virginity due to insanity.
Now he is free, which I'm like, the first listen through, I was like, so she was insane, so she lost her virginity, but I'm like, now he is free? Is it saying like the guy who she lost her virginity to got out from jail because of an insanity plea? Like, is that what we're hearing? Because that makes slightly more sense. I don't know, but that's the one lyric that I wrote down too. There's a lot going on here. There's mommies crying, or there's babies crying for their mommies. Seems to be sort of like a tragic tale of like just misfortunate things happening to these characters. I don't know, pretty boring.
Yeah.
Maybe another Social D adjacent style here, kind of like that, sort of 50s tragic song again, I guess. But
I was looking into old school Tooth and Nail group. So take this for what it's worth, but this will give a little maybe context to maybe why Ryan maybe is a little bit harder to find than it says from this guy on the old school Tooth and Nail group. This is from a while ago. This is my 20-year-old memory going back to a conversation I had with Ryan at Cornerstone, but I know their time on Tooth and Nail BC didn't end well. As I remember, they were cut for not fulfilling their touring requirement of their contract. They'd not been touring due to mom's Ryan being sick and I believe dying. When speaking to Ryan, he wasn't even sure they were going to be able to release Incognito with the name Value Pac, that Tooth and Nail was going to block it. I'm pretty sure corporate cover-up is about Tooth and Nail. In the end, I believe he was another person that was hurt by the Christian music industry and became bitter and jaded by it. which is unfortunate in many ways because Value Pac is my absolute favorite band. Highlight of that Cornerstone year was Ryan pulling me on stage to sing Loner with the band.
That's
of
cool.
course, the low point was when they shut the set down because too many people were on the stage.
Man, that's sad for a lot of reasons.
Yeah.
It's a bummer to hear, and it makes some of these songs make a little more sense. Yeah. I can imagine whatever. Yeah. Tooth and nail, complicated history sometimes with artists. But I can imagine having your mom die in the middle of obligations would be really tough. So yeah, it's a bummer. I hope he is doing something that makes him happy these days.
Yes, me too. Sorry for not liking your record.
Yes, sir.
But going from that to Poncho.
You want to be a rock star drummer. You want to be a priest down under. You want to be the population of some dumb European nation. You want to be the girl who loves you. You want to be the go-go's last view. You want to be the conversation of words like interpolation. Superstar. You want to have all the chicks and the cars. You want to be a big celebrity of the American dream. Jump in that wildcat and let's ride. I'll drive us to a place where we can sit, talk about the girls we hate. Let's shoot the pier from 9 to 5. Nosedive into the pits of sin, and now you're out of control and you'll do it again.
I have some shocking news for you.
This is your number 3?
This is my number 3.
Yeah.
Many problems. But I mean, the vocals are particularly tough on this song.
Very tough.
Like just very flat. You know, I don't know. I really think this is one of those songs that could be really good with a different vocal approach, with some different production. That guitar line that comes in the beginning, the like nee 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 nee, I think that rules. And there's a little bit of a return to that in a solo later. I think the chorus is really catchy. The like, all right. I like the background vocals a lot. You know, the lyrics are also kind of tough. Yeah. They're very on the nose. You want to be the population of some dumb European nation. I'm like, what are we talking about here? He wants to go and sit and talk about the girls we hate.
Yeah.
Talking about the pits of sin.
Yeah.
But you know, the general idea of the like, let's jump into that wildcat and let's ride all night. I think that's really cool. I think that's fun. This is the one that I kind of wondered, was this about the original drummer? And there was some sort of like falling out because he's like, you want to be a rock star drummer, and is kind of accusing this person of all these things the whole time. But perhaps it's more about sort of the general experience with Tooth and Nail, maybe, given what you read. I don't know. But I do, you know, I love let's just get in the car and drive and just like, let's go all night. I love that general vibe. And even though it's my number 3 on an album I don't love, I think there are a lot of cool elements to it. Like there's a part toward the end where instruments drop out and it's just the different vocal parts. I think it could be really cool if it was pulled off better. Yeah, I just think with better production, this song might be really good. I think this is great. It's pretty good.
I think starting out with the bass was a bad idea.
Yeah. And if it's going to be just sort of naked vocals, it has to sound better than that.
Yeah. I think if he started out maybe to the tune of the guitar versus the bass.
Yeah, that probably be a better fit for this kind of song.
Yeah.
Yeah, another curious choice. But I
don't
do
know.
think
It's also one of the longer songs on the album. It's the third longest.
Yeah, I don't mind it as much this time, but
I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll call an audible, and because I don't
I mean,
have.
I think it's cool. I think that's fun.
Yeah, I have a hard time, like, I mean, obviously this is a 21-year-old record at this point, but like it's so cliche.
Yes,
It's
it
such
really
a cliche, like, want to like have the money and the cars. You want to
Right.
be, yeah. Yeah, it's fine. Maybe I'll call an audible. We'll see. But
there's a song, a couple songs from now that I thought would probably be your number 3, but we'll get there.
We'll see. Stony Plains.
Me
Talk about affectations on the voice.
down by the creek. The leaves are falling, the birds are all calling, and I can't be seen.
I can't be seen.
A thought runs through my head. With all of my sorrow, no hope for tomorrow, I wish I were dead. I'm like the mice, run for my life with nowhere to run or hide. Why can't I be down by that creek? Me down by the creek. The sky is falling and demons are calling to me in my sleep. Alone under my bed. It makes me wonder how all of my blood.
So I think this song has some interesting things going on.
Yeah, for sure.
The vocals kill me.
I don't know what he's doing reminds me of something, and I can't place it. But like it's not necessarily bad if it was like it's completely its own thing. But again, in the context of Value Pac and the kinds of other songs I've done and the vocals, it just is like completely out of left field, and like you can't take it seriously.
Yeah.
Mike Knott plays acoustic guitar in the song, which is really cool. So I don't know if he's like trying to do a Mike Knott kind of vocal, maybe that kind of vibe. But there's way too much affectation on it. I don't know what he's doing.
Down by the creek.
Yeah, and again, there's room for that kind of song delivery, but it's weird in context with their other stuff. I think the melody is cool. I like this little song.
This is one of those things where I'm like, there's some interesting things going on here.
Yeah.
But the delivery of it just takes me out of the enjoyment, because it's just like, this is goofy.
Yeah. A cool idea for a song and a cool vibe, but it just isn't pulled off totally. And
Melodies
I think
are cool.
Yeah.
It's just like, I think one of the things that is striking me about a lot of this is that so much of this album seems inauthentic.
Yeah, right. Yep. I think that's a fair.
It's like he's trying to put on like a particular costume.
Right.
Like this is what a rock star sounds like. This is what a rock star does. He goes, yeah.
Right, exactly. This song kind of reminds me of, not really in terms of how it actually sounds, but just the idea of it, of like Son of a Gun from Tumbledown, where it's like,
oh sure,
we're gonna have this little cool acoustic number that sounds different from other stuff, and it has a cool melody, and we're gonna get sort of a, other folky person to help us with it. But like, maybe that's what he should have done, is just have Mike not sing or something, because it's like, Mike has another vocalist help him out on that song, and it sort of makes it feel more authentic, because it's sort of a different vibe than he
if Mike not sang the second verse or something.
Right, that would be cool. Here it just kind of sounds like he's playing dress up. I like the little la 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 la. Background vocals. I think that's fun.
The prairie dogs cry when the wind hits their eyes, and I doubt that they'll ever survive. Wish I could be down by that creek. So you say I'm a lost soul.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wish we could hear that song done right,
Yes.
Lyrically, he's in a bad place. He's down and out. He wishes he could be down by the creek.
Yeah.
It's good times down by the creek.
Down by the what?
Creek. What does it remind me of, man?
Creek.
Down by the creek. It reminds me of like a completely different kind of band that I like, but I can't like place. Anyway.
It's almost like is it live? Is that like
maybe it's definitely live adjacent? Yeah.
I don't know. There's so much drama put on like a lot of these vocals.
Right. Yeah, I guess that's kind of what he's going for. And Creed is kind of that post grunge thing. So I guess that's the vibe. But
I'm thinking like throwing copper, like age of like sort of, I don't know. Whatever.
Alone in your room where you swept away.
That kind of thing.
Yes, exactly.
Leave you there by.
Anyway. Yeah, I guess that is what he's doing.
The falls to the floor.
Let's do a live season.
Ooh.
That record rules.
Yeah. I think I have some do I have some? I have some I have some Throwing Copper.
Is this a live podcast now?
Yeah, it is. Throwing podcasts. Throwing I don't know.
Podper.
Yeah. We'll figure it out. Don't Let Go.
Didn't mean to make you cry. Never meant to let you down. Didn't mean to make you sad. I wanted you to wear my crown. Can you let your feelings go? Can you let your feelings show? Does it make you sad to know? All I wanted was your soul. But now it's just a memory. I'll put the past behind. Such a distant tragedy. I make believe tonight. Didn't mean to be so cruel.
This is the one that I thought
This might be my number 3. I mean, because Russell Castillo from Dogwood is the drummer. You can tell that because the drums rule on this song.
Yep.
What this song lacks, though, in my mind, I hear so many harmonies going on in the background.
Yes.
This song is perfectly layered and like the stage has been set for harmonies all over.
Yep.
And there's just, it's, I'm just ready for it. My body is prepared to find them. And
I agree. I think mainly the reason this song is good is because Russell Castillo is playing drums on it. It's a pretty boring song apart from that. I mean, it's fine, but I think the drums are the best part of it. And it's like, oh, we haven't heard this guy in a while. He, famously, perhaps the most musically accomplished member of Dogwood, and to hear like those drums played on this album is like, whoa, I feel like you're like woken up all of a sudden and you're like, oh, it's pretty obvious that it's like a different drummer and it sounds better than any other song. Not to like be too harsh, but he is one of the better drummers from this whole scene. So I don't think it's saying anything untrue.
Suck it, Chuck.
That's right. There's like a breakdown into fast drums toward the end, and then like some background vocals. I think it's like 155. Could we hear that part that I like a lot? Yeah. I mean, that's great. Yeah. I mean, he just sounds great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll say this is my number 3. I'll do it. I'll make it a fish.
It's it's my number 4, just barely.
Yeah.
But I wonder if they needed someone who could play this fast for this song, or how that worked. Like, or he was like, I can do one song for you guys, and this was the one they chose. Whatever the process was, I wish there were more songs that sounded like this, more centered on fast drums, like, punk songs on this album.
You mean
that
a punk album? You'd want?
Yeah, for a punk band. But yeah, I just
be a punk rock drummer.
Got a little taste of what it may have sounded like if he had been a part of this band.
Your drummer.
And it sounds pretty good. Unfortunately, as we were saying, the song itself still not really doing that much for me.
No,
but
there's not a lot that's doing much of anything for me. Like,
yeah, fair enough.
I mean, this to me is like a demo.
Yes,
where it's like
that really is what it feels like.
Here's what we're working on. Where do you think we can take some of these songs up a notch?
If this was a demo, it would make total sense, because you're like, oh yeah, there's a lot of good bones here. We'll improve on it. Yeah, that's interesting.
Scrap Bad Me.
Yes, please. Scrap another song that's coming later.
Yeah,
in my opinion. Lyrically, I don't know. He's sorry about the way things went in a relationship. He also says, all I wanted was your soul.
Yeah.
Which is a little weird.
That's a line.
So is it, again, a romantic relationship, or was he like trying to convert someone? Yeah, maybe Jesus is talking to somebody.
He's running down the street shouting at all the soulless people.
Right, could be blank faces.
Blank.
Yeah, I don't know. Sorry, I feel like we're guessing with a lot of this, because I'm like, as much as I can hear it, I'm not like going to type out everything I can hear and pour over them. Sorry, everybody.
Yeah, no, that's especially for this record, Yeah, it's good. Like, put so much effort into this record that nobody's heard and nobody really likes.
Is this the most effort anyone's ever put into analyzing this album? It could be.
Yes, absolutely. Talking Prodigal, bro.
Everywhere I turn, it's wrong. I know
oh boy.
It's just not right.
Down by the creek.
I wanna say the world want to see.
Sounds like a commercial at Applebee's. I don't know.
Talking about the prodigal son, this is a Bible verse.
Lots to unpack here. I just feel like the beginning of the song sounds like a joke or a parody or something, but like maybe that's the way it's supposed to be, because this is one that then like goes really fast into like a punker sound. So I don't know.
Talking about going to hell for somebody.
Yeah, I can't take the blame for you. I would if I only could, and I could die in hell with you. Just give me one more chance. So I was like, okay, is it a broken relationship with like a family member? Or is he just maybe concerned that this person is going to hell? It's like, I can't save your soul. What about now? It's not too late. Like, is it not too late to accept Jesus, or to like forgive or be forgiven in this relationship? I don't know. But clearly referencing something that happened and putting it sort of onto the lens of the prodigal son story, which makes me think it is some sort of family relationship. But yeah, I don't know.
It'd be a lot easier if we had the lyrics.
Right. I could die in hell with you. Just give me one more chance is very dramatic.
Yeah.
So
it's also sort of like a kind of like a sick burn. It's like it sort of like maybe sounds being like, I would even go so far as to, going to hell with you where you're definitely going.
Right. Yeah. That is the sense. Yep. I mean, he's like, I can't save your soul. So he's like taking it as a given, which again is why I'm
you're
like,
definitely going to hell, but I love you so much. I'll go with you to hell because you're going to hell.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Weird one. I don't know. Yeah. Okay melody, I guess, at times, but too long, pretty boring.
Yeah, it is the second longest song. It is kind of boring.
It is not as bad as the next song, though, in my opinion.
Princess.
Oh boy. Get your lighters out.
This is a song by Extreme.
You're so right.
When I look into your eyes, time goes passing by, knowing I could die. And I know in the morning you'll be there.
In what reality is this not like an 80s ballad?
I don't get it at all.
We belong in each other's arms, and I pray that tomorrow will be today. So I feel that I want you more and more.
This song was written in the year 2000.
Love is real when I feel you by my side. So please be waiting there for me.
Oh my God.
My first thought when I was listening was like, so kiss me. It's kind of like a Sixpence vibe a little bit, but worse.
Yeah.
But now that you say Extreme, all I can hear is like, more than what? Yeah, I don't know what this is. Like, if you're trying for Creed, I get that, but this song, what are you trying for here? I don't know what this is.
It doesn't sound like it was written in this decade.
No, I don't know what it is. I keep saying that, but I'm just like, I don't get who this is for. Who likes this? Maybe it is like 80s sort of ballad hair rock. That's the vibe, I guess. But like
this, it not only does it not make sense for like Value Pac, it doesn't make sense on this record.
Right. Yeah, totally.
It's even as eclectic as this record is, it's so wildly out of place.
It's very strange. It's not Value Pac, and even if it's a different band trying this, it doesn't sound good. So It's not pulled off on a production level. I don't know if it's maybe the melody.
I listen to a lot of different styles of music.
Yeah.
I not only would I not listen to this as a Value Pac song, I just wouldn't listen to this as a song.
Oh no,
at all. Like if one of my favorite bands put out this song, I'd be like, "Fuck this song. This is
not
what
my
is
vibe.
This is the tambourine and everything, and like the little flourishes on the acoustic guitar. I'm just like, what is this? This is like, this sounds like boomer rock.
It really does. I kept waiting for it to like break into a punk sound or something and be like, oh, that was we were just goofing, and now here's the real vibe. But nope.
Like even on like Bunker's Lullaby, the slow song, it's like they're doing something interesting there before they like start shredding.
Yeah. Can you imagine this song in the middle of Jalapeño? I mean, that would be truly bananas.
Boner killer.
Like, yeah, maybe the melody isn't bad for what it is, but just how they do it doesn't work. I mean, they're like, when I look into your eyes, like, can anybody take that seriously? Having said that, lyrically, it's let's hear some more.
I'll be gone, 'cause I waited here so long, but there's nothing.
Again, like the melody, I don't mind that, but it's just not what this song makes of that is not what this should be. But you know, I kind of hate to bag on it because it's like the one song that's like a nice love song, clearly about, I assume, like a wife or like a spouse or something, but or significant other. But like, just again, the lyrics feel a little on the nose. It's like very like mushy, sort of like, I can't believe I wake up next to, just like the most obvious stuff. I don't know, whatever.
Yeah.
Sorry, Ryan, I don't like it.
Yeah. Just listening to the record in its entirety, I just found it exhausting.
Yeah, we got a few more songs too.
I know. Well,
we can blow through this.
This next song,
I'm kind of into this next one.
I'm into this next song. This is again one of those songs that, like, in the context of like what they're trying to do,
right?
The thing that they're trying to do is interesting.
Yeah.
But okay, the song's called "Dear God."
Dear God, I hope you got the letter.
Dear God, why must he kill me?
Young man up on the hillside.
Have I sinned? What have I done to you? You pierced my heart and felt no shame. And my face is flushed from weeping. My eyes are dim from all my tears, and I'll go the way to the place of no return, and I'll burn if I stayed. Would you take away this pain? Dear God, why do you hate me for 21 years?
So it goes on to how he feels like he's done what he's done, I guess, the best he can, or he's tried to live the right life, and he feels like God
He's tried to shout at every stranger on the street with their blank souls that he can.
Yeah. And he feels like he's got nothing out of it or something like that. Which is a very curious song coming from all the previous songs before it, talking about like, you know, you're a sinner and you went insane because you had sex, and only Jesus can, whatever. So I feel like there's something interesting happening in this song lyrically that I'm very connected to.
Yeah.
And it's a very Social Distortion song. Take away my brain. Not only that, but the sound of silence.
Right. This is the one that I kept thinking. And the walls of the prophets are written on the subway walls and tenement halls. Like it follows that exactly.
Yeah, it does.
Which is funny. But you know what? That's a great song.
Yeah.
I don't know. This is another one that's like very much the bones of a really cool song are here, I think. Interesting melody, interesting idea. You know, starting out with just like the toms and the feedback and then building, I think is cool.
Yes.
But it's kind of a boring execution of the idea. And again, that vocal affectation is just a bummer. So that doesn't help anything. And I like you're saying, what he's sort of wrestling with. It feels, everything about this feels different from Value Pac. But again, for what they're trying, I think it's cool. It's kind of like a prayer or a lament, which I sort of appreciate. He writes a lot of songs about being in a tough spot, but this is the first one where he's sort of like blaming God or asking God if he did something to God or why God hates him.
Yes.
And that's why he's in the pain that he's in, which is like not great theology, I would say, but also is a lot of the like Psalms and Lamentations is people wondering this exact thing. So
yeah, I think it's biblical. I think it's fair. I think it's a wrestling that I think is interesting for someone coming out of this scene. It makes me sad.
Yes, it does.
For him that this is because I went through this exact same stuff of feeling like I was trying to do all the right things for God, and like why wasn't God listening to me? And it's a very lonely and isolating place, which is why I feel like connected to this song.
Yeah.
And I feel like, again, there's lots of cool stuff going on.
Yeah.
But the Simon and Garfunkel comparison just cannot be like how do you write that sort of ascending like line and be like, oh shit, no, this is the Sound of Silence. I can't. Let me just
whoops, my bad.
Whoops, my bad. And also, side note, can you just Google the Sound of Silence like I did? Just the Sound of Silence, nothing else. I want you to tell me what the top result is.
Oh, that's a bummer.
Is it also Disturbed?
It is Disturbed, the Sound of Silence.
Yes.
How do they have SEO on that over Simon and Garfunkel?
And it says song by Disturbed.
Huh.
And
that's
then
fascinating.
you have it's like the first thing is like then you scroll down, it's like more about like the artist Disturbed on their album Immortalized. And then there's a Simon and Garfunkel video, and then the Disturbed Sound of Silence when he performed on Conan, and everybody lost their minds as if it was like the greatest thing in the world. I'm like, it sounds bad. People love that version of the song, and I think
it's like a metal version of the Simon and Garfunkel song.
Yes.
Huh. Well,
he performed it on Conan,
weird.
And it has this really weird vocal effect on it.
Huh.
And I think his voice is interesting for the song, since he kind of has like this sort of deep and resonating voice.
Yeah.
But if like, I don't think a Simon Garfunkel song needed a Disturbed take.
No, that's fascinating. I wonder if it's just because it's like a more recent thing that's more popular when you search for it. But that's
like it was like 5 years ago though.
Sure. That's like one of the best known sort of folk rock songs of all time. It's a little odd that Disturbed is like, I'm gonna put my chin piercings in and get you fuck out of first place. I don't know. Yeah, it's certainly an interesting one. More interesting than the next couple.
Yeah, She Told Me.
I don't know much of anything. My mind was empty. What am I supposed to do about her? She told me this morning. She said she'd never lose control. Her mind was on one thing. I only wanted something more. So what am I supposed to do? Now I'm on my own and I'm feeling so alone. So I tell my baby that I love her. So she told me this evening. She said she'd never go away one day.
It's okay. Yeah,
it's fine.
I like it a little more because it at least sounds like Value Pac. At least like this doesn't sound out of place with like the first album.
I feel like this song is more in line with the first two songs on this record.
Yes, and I'm more in for that vibe. Like his voice sounds kind of normal again. He's not like, she told me. So I don't get why he's just like completely switching it up every time, but whatever. I don't dislike it. I like the harmonies at the end of the song. Yeah, breakup song. I don't know. Fine.
Yeah, you know it's fine by me. She said the words I can't forget. She said the words I can't forget. She said the words I can't forget.
That's kind of fun. but just kind of.
Yeah. John, last song, and then we will be free. The song is called Free.
Sums of my life until today, I didn't want to know what my future had in store. Now I'm okay. I seen the light, you could say. Now I see what it means to be free. 'Cause freedom is what you do with what's been done to you. Freedom is what you do with what's been given unto you. We've been given a choice, now it's up to you. Why can't you see that the answer lies before your eyes? Now he's living inside of me.
More Mike Ness.
Yeah, wouldn't all these songs be better if he was like, "Now she's living inside me"? You know what I mean? Like,
yes, it would.
It would. Not great. I don't know. Kind of a bummer. This is the ending song.
I know. Anytime when I've listened to this, I'm just like, and it rolls into right after that is Vandals, and it rolls into Vandals. I was like, oh, that was the last song.
Yeah, it's weird. I think Dear God. I mean, I know that's a bummer to end on, but that would be a cool musical ending, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, some bummer theology on this one too. This is another sort of it's in God's book, but you don't want to look type song. He's like, why can't you see? And in that sense, it's more like the vibe of their first record. Very simple lyrics. He says, freedom is what you do with what's been done to you. And I'm like, I can't tell if that's profound or like wrong. You know what I mean? Like, I think he means like, I think in the context of what he's saying, it's like God gives us the freedom to respond to, you know, Jesus dying for you, quote unquote. And it's up to you if you want to respond to that freedom. But I'm like, I don't know. Freedom is what you do with what's been done to you. It's like an interesting, I don't know how I feel about it.
I mean, I think it starts getting problematic the more you start asking about like, okay, well, this was done to me. What about that?
Right.
You know, what sort of freedom are we talking about?
Right. Yeah. Curious one. Kind of a shrug of an ending for the career of Value Pac, which is sad. But that's Incognito, everybody.
Yeah. We also didn't even talk about the cover of the record, which
also
sucks. Have you?
So I assume it's the two guys from Value Pac.
Yes.
That are like in color in this crowd of black and white people, I guess.
Yeah. And,
I don't know.
And it's sort of like, is that sort of supposed to be tongue in cheek? Be like, hey, look, we are
Incognito.
The two most obvious people.
Right.
Like you can definitely see,
right.
Not hiding in any way.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know what to make of it. It's got one of those sort of shaded star symbols that everybody had like tattoos of for a period of time in the 90s.
It's very retro looking.
Kind of a bummer of a font again. The Incognito itself looks kind of cool. But just kind of a waste of a cover in my opinion.
It's overall a not good album cover.
Yeah. Well, sorry to end things on a bummer, everybody, but fortunately, we're going to move into our rankings and our set list, and that'll be a little more fun.
Well, John, can we just knock the rankings out real fast?
Should we say them in unison?
Okay. We'll go number 3. 3, 2, 1. Incognito. 3, 2, 1. Self-titled. 3, 2, 1.
Jalapeño.
Yeah.
Yep. I challenge anyone to disagree with that.
Yeah, there's I feel like that is scientific fact at this point.
Yeah.
But let us now do I'm curious now. I'm going to stop sharing my screen because I want to follow along with your Value Pac set list.
Sure. Should I start it off?
You start off. Yep.
This was a weird one. I usually try to have more kind of peaks and valleys, like with a slow song into a fast song, whatever. These mostly just go hard. And I was trying to represent different eras, but what I didn't want to do was just have 10 Jalapeño songs, which I could have easily done. But I was trying to switch it up a little bit. So anyway, I feel like you usually say, as a little caveat, in case you haven't listened, we try to do at the end of a series focusing on a band, a little 10-song set list. If we could pick a set list, which ones would we choose? And we're limited to 10 songs. So number 1, kicking it off, high energy, old school, Graduation Day. That's how we're starting. Going straight into Nothing. Perhaps my favorite Value Pac song. Another banger, makes good second song, I think, in terms of like keeping up the energy, keeping it going, switching up eras. Third song, We Are the Ones, changing up the energy from going hard to that ska sound, so you can quit throwing bows and start skanking a little. Go from that into Don't Look Back, kind of turning up the energy to 11. I think that would be a fun song live. Controversially, my next pick, Corporate Cover-Up.
Oh, fascinating.
I waffled on this one. Controversy. I was like, I want to throw the last era a bone, and I wouldn't mind hearing that song. I really do like that song. As I said, I think it would be fun live. So as kind of a nod to that era, I will include that one. I do like that song. Then Homesick. Really fun, changing back into a different mode. Again, one of my very favorite Value Pac songs. We've got that mode before we slip into the hardcore section, which I always like to include. We've got Frat, sort of hardcore adjace. We're building into that harder edge circle pit section, and then Sunday Christian.
Nice.
Another complicated one, but fun live for like a little hardcore mini set.
For sure.
Then we go into Preacher Man, which I know may not be in your set, but again, switching up to a different kind of high energy street punk song. I think that's a good pick for the penultimate song. And then I kind of struggled with the ending song, but I went with Inch High. I think it's kind of a cool ending song in terms of it kind of slows down and it's just got the guitar part on its own. I think that would be a cool sort of final statement of a song for a set. So 2 songs from Self-Titled, 1 from Incognito, 7 from Jalapeño. I was still very Jalapeño dominated.
We have 8 out of 10.
Okay, wow. I'm kind of surprised with this one.
I did not have anything from Incognito.
Sure, yeah.
I did not throw any bones. I was keeping all of those bones for the first 2.
For the pit.
Exactly. But I started out with Nothing.
Yeah, I went back and forth on that.
I started out with Nothing, into Homesick, and I wanted to keep that energy going from the jump. So I got my hardcore section up front.
Cool, I like it.
So, much to your surprise, Preacher Man.
All right.
Into Sunday Christian.
Right on.
Into Frat.
We had the same little 3-song section there. That's cool.
Then we go to We Are the Ones. And then this is where we diverge a little bit because I included Happy Star and Mind Game.
Okay.
I thought even those were not in Preacher Man, Happy Star. I don't think Happy Star was in my.
It wasn't. It was in mine.
It was in your top 3. Yeah, neither of those 3 were in my top 3s. But I thought when I think of songs that I'm like, and then either Sunday Christian too. Were those in our top 3s either?
Nope.
I don't remember.
No.
So we're like, this is. I'd still want to see it live.
Yeah, for sure.
So, but then I end with Don't Look Back and then Graduation Day.
Cool. Yeah, pretty similar.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had Happy Star in my top 3, but did not include it here. And then I included songs that were in your top 3s that I did not include
That
here.
was
or I mean that I did include.
I think that was similar to Ace Troubleshooter.
Yeah, right.
And I don't know, did we have that? I think that was the Ace Troubleshooter, because I included was it But for Grace? I think
that sounds right.
The one that
yeah, you're right.
That I included that you didn't, but that was in your top 3.
Yeah, I really waffled on not including Happy Star or Mind Games, because I think you're right. They both were in my set at different points, and I ended up removing them. I think they are songs that fans would want to hear. I think they'd be fun. There's just too many other songs that I like more than them from Jalapeño to include them, which is kind of
I know
but you got to construct a set.
Yeah. That being said, I would see either of those shows.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I missed out on the whole Value Pac thing, so seeing a lot of these Jalapeño songs live would be super fun. And won't happen probably.
It will never happen.
But
same with a lot of the bands that we are discussing this season.
Unfortunately,
we still have a chance to see bands like Slick Shoes.
Yeah, we do.
Craig's brother. They're still putting out records.
It's true.
Yeah, John, that leads us to the all important question. What is next? Do you want to announce who we're having on next week, John?
Yes, very special guest next week. We're going to have Tyler Huckabee. He is a writer for Relevance. He covers a lot of stuff about culture, kind of very familiar with the 90s CCM scene. He has a podcast about superheroes. I think it'll be a really fun and wide-ranging conversation.
Yes, looking forward to that. Seems like a really cool dude. And then after Tyler, we will be diving in to the discography of Goaty Hook. Goaty Hook, bro.
Yeah, man.
Talk about that Sumo Surprise. Talk about that Banana Man.
Banana Man all over. They will be a very interesting discography to cover. Short, but took some interesting turns along the path.
Yeah, and it's one of those bands where a band that, like, from the outset that you're like, oh, they're not taking themselves too seriously. I have a lot more grace for the goofier moments,
right?
Like Ookla the Punk and
right,
and Money and Dry Run or whatever, just like really goofy songs, but like there are some interesting choices of there are some interesting theological discussions that we can have
for sure,
but we will get there.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk about them. In the meantime, let us know what you thought about our Value Pac coverage in general, about Incognito. You can give us the feedback at Magnified Pod on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Subscribe to the pod if you haven't yet already, and give us a rating or review. We'll read it on the show. Email us at magnifiedpod@gmail.com.
You can leave us a voicemail at 872-762-4763, 8727-MAGPOD.
You can support us at patreon.com/magnifiedpod. And we want to welcome new Patreon punk, Jason Ariano. Welcome, Jason. Jason, one of the OG MagPod listeners. He's been calling in since the very early days. So very glad to have him among the Patreon punks. If you want to know what we're up to over on the Patreon this week, we're covering Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2 soundtrack. We had so much fun going through Pro Skater 1 and the songs from there last week that we're diving into Volume 2. So you can check that out over at the Patreon. And You can pick up some merch at magnifiedpod.storeenvy.com. Thanks to Shadow Producer Jason and Unoriginal Vinyl, and thanks to Heavy Ordnance Studios for our artwork. Well, our time in the penalty box is over for this week. We'll be back out on the ice next week when we'll talk to Tyler Huckabee.
I told the story, it's impossible. I know I was wrong, but it's everything I was fighting for. I am sorry, I don't mean no harm, but I can't explain the evil ways of my heart anymore. My heart's been broken.
John,
Woof.
can you explain the evil ways of your heart?
I just can't. I'm too evil.
You're just such a bad boy.
Bad. That's just bad me. That's what I would say.
Bad daddy.
Sorry, Mickey.
I'm not.
For more shows like this one, visit rockcandyrecordings.com.